Good evening and Assalamu alaikum. I'm Faisal Kapadia and this is Awab Alvi. We are your hosts on the Out of Bounds show. With us today is Kulsoom Lakhani. She's traveled here all the way from DC just to attend the show. And Shobs as well. And
he just traveled from across the street.
Well, Shobs was part of the Innovation Lab initiative that happened in Islamabad. And Kulsoom, why don't you start off by telling us about your initiative first?
Okay. I'm the founder of a new startup called Invest to Innovate, or I to I, which is an intermediary organization that connects early stage social enterprises with investors or funders. And what we do is we provide services to help grow these businesses and make them viable investments and then connect them to capital. So in a place like Pakistan, which is our pilot market, there's a real need to actually address the early stage in the pipeline and to actually help develop the overall ecosystem for social entrepreneurship.
So basically, the funding is before the seed capital or is after the?
It depends on the enterprise. It tends to be around seed capital phase, but it's just kind of in that middle phase where they're too big for microloans and too small for commercial investment. So they're kind of in that $75,000 to $150,000. So just kind of in that middle.
Would it be okay to ask who are the funders, or is it just private funders?
Right now, we're basically working on how to develop a community within the community of the Pakistani diaspora. So people that have been, just because when we look at investors in the space, they tend to be more funders on the later stage. So whether it's Acumen, Shorebank, like the investments that you see tend to be more later stage. But in Pakistan, the need right now is to actually build the early stage. And because a lot of people are obviously shy of Pakistan because of obvious reasons.
Why shy?
Well, a lot of reasons why the investor climate might not be so good for foreign investors. So what we're doing instead is we're looking at how the diaspora psychology can actually be leveraged in order to channel capital in a much more efficient way.
Why did you think about starting this initiative? I mean, what came to you is like,
Well, I had been working on the donor side for some time. I directed a philanthropy arm of a company. We provided seed funding for social entrepreneurs in their startup phases, mostly in Pakistan. So I'd been exposed to the space for some time. I was really passionate about social entrepreneurship, but I was also very realistic about what the space could provide. And I feel like people think of it as a really sexy term, but they don't really understand that at the end of the day, these are all businesses, and we have to run like a business. And looking at markets like Pakistan, where there's a lot of potential here, but there's not a lot of support. And so for me, rather than starting a social enterprise, I wanted to launch an intermediary that could actually provide the business services to help these businesses grow and also to be able to attract capital.
Have you identified any projects as yet?
Yeah, I currently have 3 clients. One is Eco Energy Finance, which is working, actually we're traveling to Kadaki Basti tomorrow to look at a potential pilot area, but they're providing clean energy solutions to low-income populations. We're looking at, and it's more market-based approach, so it's not...
They burn garbage, or what's through the garbage?
Well,
they generate energy through compost.
Generally, like most people that are off the grid use kerosene, which obviously has a really large amount of health, it has a lot of ramifications in terms of health, in terms of how pricey it is, in terms of the fact that, kerosene, a lot of people get burned by it. And so clean energy, obviously from an environmental perspective, but also from a social perspective, can provide a lot, can usher in a lot of opportunities for these populations. And if you can price it competitively with kerosene, you're actually taking much more of a market-based approach rather than just providing charity.
And you should have been there in Islamabad Innovation Lab.
I came the last day of it. I came to Islamabad the last day.
Yeah, so and I think we had some great projects there. We had about 7 groups that made different projects, and of which we've got Shobs here who might be able to discuss what Sync does. Our group designed Mera Vote Meri Taakat, which was a voting-based situation. There was Uruj and her group designed sexual harassment, and there was a blood donation, and there were a couple of others.
Did you design or did you just make over?
Make over, yes, but उस साथ ये भी होता है कि उसमें जब बैठते हो साथ तो you use all the tools available and you come together. I think सबसे पहले we should go to
Tell us about Sync. Yeah, tell us about your project.
Sync is basically social injustice neutralization controls. We're using 3 different technologies for this, but the major component is monitoring technology, along with USHID and Twitter as an output.
We were hoping to have. I was hoping Mamoon Tariq Khan आज हमारे Skype पे आते हैं, but उसमें ये let me explain what Moonwritten does. Moonwritten.
And that was yours.
Pardon?
Was that yours?
No, that's
Okay.
I just want to explain what Moonwritten does. Moonwritten is based जो हमारे पाकिस्तान में होता है मिस कॉल मार्कर, सारा बिजनेस सारे मिस कॉल पे, 2 मिस कॉल मारे तो ये है, 1 मिस कॉल मारा तो वो है. तो what Moonwritten does is basically you dial a US number. I was trying to figure out the exact number. Let's suppose you dial a number 1567 and the number is of a CNN. Let's suppose CNN.
Okay.
The minute you dial it, it hangs up right away without any charge to you, and within the next minute it sends back an SMS of the latest RSS feed of CNN from Pakistan, because I dialed from Pakistan. So Pakistan
so
के customized है, तो अगर let's suppose you dialing from Afghanistan, so they'll give you whatever is the news stories related, but top breaking news. But उसके साथ, so what is interesting about it is through a missed call you're able to get news information fed directly to your phone. Could be BBC, could be WHO, could be anything of that sort.
And so what did their project do?
Well, ours was basically to use Moonwritten because we feel that this would help us bridge the digital divide. Because
So Moonwritten is the core technology.
It's the core technology, and one other reason was that we thought we could use frontline SMS, but as I saw on your show, and we know that frontline SMS is limited by the number of text messages you can send in an hour.
He's saying the project is limited.
No, it's not. I'm just giving an example of frontline SMS.
He said it.
So,
I didn't say it, he said it.
no, but they themselves wanted to incorporate the technology for their project as well. So we have some interest from 2 parties, from them and
Okay,
from
so what does
Farhan.
Sync do actually?
So Sync is, we just use it as a deployment at the project to, for example, we use a disaster relief model.
Okay.
Because we saw the park relief model and we believe that it's good, but it could be improved on many different levels. Initially, we wanted to work on something crime map or something, to have a municipal map or something to. I guess I'm lost here.
So what Sync does is actually, let's suppose you're in an earthquake, you're trapped in an earthquake, and all of a sudden you want help, you give a missed call to that certain number, could be any number, could be 567 for example. You give a missed call and that registers as a flag on their system that's red. This number needs assistance. Location wise you don't know. A call center then looks at the red dot that this number needs assistance. Call center calls him up if he can and locate him. Otherwise that red flag remains red flagged until we locate where the person is. And they call him up and they talk to him, what you need food, you need assistance, medical assistance. And if he needs, let's suppose, food, you move him to the food cluster and you say and turn that dot into a yellow dot and maybe locate him in that Pakistan map where he is. And when you have that yellow dot blip up, now it's moved to the food department to actually go in and make sure he gets food. When he gets food, it's his responsibility then to actually call the system up and say, yes, I got food, and that yellow cluster turns into a green cluster. And this is all based on a missed call situation. So he makes a missed call. But the first thing is you need a call center that calls back, physically calls back. But the second step, when he's converted to a yellow dot, he's also sent a message that you have to call, when you get food, you have to call this number. And when he calls this number, his caller ID actually then clicks up and that yellow dot turns into green dot. So that means the service has been delivered. What happens in disaster relief is basically a lot of people miss out. You miss out a lot of people within that confusion and the panic.
Right.
And in this effort, I even thought, a Turkey earthquake. I can imagine, I can't imagine a person stuck in a rubble and trying to figure out how to send an SMS. A simple, you could even convert during disasters.
I'm totally confused. Can you sell this to an investor?
I think I think the reason why you did it makes sense, because I think there's obviously a need, and I get the simplicity of it, because I actually think that would make sense to investors. I think trying to figure out, because obviously the value chain's kind of long, because it's you send it to the call center has to get it resolved and then sends it back. Are you creating a visual map as well as you're doing it?
We could, but I think that's what they designed. The design was a visual map also, but as I said, I think you're absolutely right, is how to pitch it to an investor.
Yeah, because it's seriously complicated. But I know the process. I understand it. Somebody makes a missed call, the flag comes up with his location, you're able to track him.
I'll answer that. What we did at the Innovation Lab was we had a live demonstration. You were there, you saw how how it was. You give a call, you get a text back, and then you can see it as an output. You know, we received your call.
Yes, but would that work in a pressure situation?
Yeah, it can, because you know the thing is
if I'm trapped underneath the building, I won't know how.
You don't have to text a number or something. You don't have to text a code or something.
So here's my thing: is that I think it's a really great idea. My thing would be
all innovate investors start. It's a great idea, but
well, luckily I'm not an investor. I'm just trying to help you. What I would think is actually to say, like, how are you going to market it? Because if you think about the fact that, like, Joe Schmo on the street, like, sitting in an earthquake rubble, like, what would be their first thought? It wouldn't be like, let me dial 567.
First of all, how you have to get them the awareness to that.
The awareness.
Yeah, so well, maybe the example was wrong. Earthquake is
okay. I was being a devil.
That's a better idea.
Because earthquake यही confusion होती है. Floods है. Floods के example लें. A person needs assistance, and he's not able to get assistance. So the only thing is it has to be run by the WHO or the UN to implement this in a large scale, because not a small organization, and it has to be fixed. But
I actually think it would be better to pilot it with a small organization, because I think the problem with WHO and a lot of these SMS texting is it is so big that they're not thinking about, like, again, like micro, because this is something that is a tool that can be used for many different purposes. It's very, like, it can be used many different ways, but if you were able to pilot it, maybe not even disaster, but use it for something specific, like using it for someone who's building something, like in a low-income community, and they need something to support them. And then if they were able to just test it and to see how it works.
Then
you're limited.
It can be tailored. It can be tailored to your needs. That's what I'm saying. It can, because it depends on what you're using it for.
Which is why
मेरा वोट मेरी ताकत ऐसी तैसी.
Okay.
You've done your show.
Okay, so how was your idea different? Because I've seen two of these ideas demonstrated basically by you guys in front of me.
And you didn't like either of them?
No, I like the ideas a lot.
He didn't get invited. That's why he thinks
it doesn't matter.
Is that why you got the cover?
I'm not invited to a lot of places because I tell the truth. First of all.
Yes.
So that's why I'm not invited.
Let's pitch my idea. I think the reason is,
by the way, what was the criteria for invitation in this conference?
He's like, just wondering.
Don't ask me. I wasn't the organizer.
Okay.
What do you mean, intellectual, innovative people? Intellectual, innovative, visionary people.
Don't ask me.
They've seen me. They've seen my progress. I've been to Kabul as well as part of one of the earlier projects, so they probably saw my good performance.
अच्छा, मेरा वोट मेरी ताकत is an initiative to educate the voter in Pakistan.
Okay.
अच्छा, what it
good
does.
Timing.
Pardon?
I said good timing.
Yeah, perfect. Imran Khan ka jalsa.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it.
Right there.
Not a coincidence.
Luck for Imran Khan.
Thank you. Let's savor the moment. Insaf.pk. I think what मेरा वोट मेरी ताकत does is educate voters on the ground. There are about 92 million people who are supposed to vote in Pakistan, of which only 36 million are registered voters. That means 56 million ka gap hai. Achha, that gap has to be bridged somehow, and not everyone's going to vote. So what we're doing is there are literally 100 million cell phones in Pakistan, and you SMS blast the first question that, or the other way around. I would rather have it the other way around rather than a spam situation where people dial an SMS, send an SMS to a number which was ideally 9900, which is a website called pring.com, and you SMS it into that network, and immediately it bounces back an SMS: are you a registered national identity card holder? Yes or no? If no, then it'll guide you to the NADRA database, NADRA centers, while if you do a yes, you are then taken to an election commission, and slowly progressively go through a series of questions, and you go into pushing them to vote and educate them vote. Our initial idea was based on the core idea was based on the fact that women in the rural areas don't know their rights to vote, and that's where, if they have a cell phone, you actually start pinging them, start hitting them that this is what can be done and this is your right to vote. So in this entire process, I think this SMS dialogue and exchange is more like a to and fro situation, while if I send an SMS, you respond by one or two or multiple choices and go through this interaction is education. part of it. The other part beyond it is how are you going to push them to vote on that day, because I think they should be understood. That's, I think, a totally different ballgame altogether. But as far as the education part in registering them to vote and making them aware of their rights to vote, that's what the system was based on. It's an SMS based situation which we're trying to exploit. The
exploit is the right word.
It is. We have to use, because 100 million cell phones are there. And of which only 36 million people are registered to vote, and so we have to exploit that gap, that void. And when we exploit the void, the other issues in Pakistan will also go. I mean, if you elect credible leaders, you'll start solving problems.
I think an issue that exists, though, is that there's a big gender disparity with mobile phone ownership, right? Especially in the rural areas. I think that generally you don't see a lot of women in the rural areas having cell phones. I mean, having mobile phones, and generally it's the men that do in the family. There's like one mobile per household.
I mean, look at it. There are 100 million cell phones in Pakistan of a population of 180 million cell phones.
No, I mean, that's huge. That's great.
So even then,
how many women have it? I mean,
but what I'm saying is that if you're...
It's even then, I think it's increasing. I understand.
I think that there's an element there that you could actually like start to think about, like how to actually bridge the gender disparity that exists first. Like I think that's one of your first steps, because if women in the rural areas don't have mobile phones, a lot of them use cloud technology in order to, like, if they go to a call center, they can actually use like a PIN number to get it. I mean, so thinking about beyond just even the mobile phone technology and thinking about like a cloud application that could work anywhere, because a lot of times what tends to happen in the rural areas, especially in Pakistan, is that they'll borrow someone's phone, and if they have like a cloud number that they can call, then that way they can always access it wherever, versus not having a phone. So thinking about like the issue of ownership, which I think is a big issue. The other thing too is thinking about, like, from an awareness point of view, like how are you educating them? Like what are you educating about? Do they have to be literate? Do they have to be, I mean, because that's the issue. Is it just through numbers? Is it something they can hear on the phone? I mean, I think it's a really great idea as well. And I'm not even just saying that to be diplomatic, but I'm just saying that these are some of like the nuanced elements that you have to think about right away.
What I was actually wondering is, in this gender divide that we focus on, I think the cloud.
Cloud में issue तो आएगा.
And a cloud. I mean, but I think the brainstorming should start. And I even.
Why do you think there's a big problem with cloud?
Cloud may, well, the reason I can understand that is...
You don't like you let women use cell phones.
But if they're already borrowing phones, that's what I'm saying. The thing is that they're already borrowing phones, whether it means from
but if they're borrowing somebody else's phone, then he's running a campaign on awareness.
The problem is कि borrow भी कर ली, औरत ने borrow कर लिया. मैं मर्द हूँ उस घराने का, मैं जाने ना दूँ. But what I think the intention in this entire process is that if they are made aware that no one should be able to use their identity card to vote, because what the man of the house takes the entire ID cards and actually go in and actually cast a vote. So I think
you could use the technology, the monitoring technology, to make it better. I mean, just an example, they just give a missed call. They don't have to pay for the call.
Yeah, but even then, she's absolutely right, because a घर में एक cell phone है और छह लोग हैं, उनको आप किस तरह?
That's fine, I understand, but
we can stop here, take a short break, and then we'll come back. Welcome back to Out of Bounds. Shobs, you were saying something.
Yeah, so you're talking about how it would be a problem for people to use a phone because a lot of people share phones in rural areas. What I feel is that if you get a call back, at least you know who you're talking to, right? You don't know who, when you send a text message, you don't know who is behind it. But when you're talking to the person, when you take down the details, I'm sure that they can
probably
share their ID card number, everything. So
but I think the brainstorming as
your initiative wouldn't work there if somebody's sharing a cell phone, because you need your own cell phone to.
No, but you don't have to call them. No? It's not your call. You get a call back. You make it easier for them. You facilitate it for them.
How many of them actually have possession of their identity card? That's because, I mean, don't their husbands always have the possession of their identity card?
Unless you make them aware of it. I mean, my focus is the fact that ideally.
And how many of them have possession?
No, ideally, this marketing campaign should be on TV, flat out, or radio. Okay, to be able to tap the entire the 80 million that are not having cell phones.
Yeah.
So the TV and the radio should be there. But I think when you have the cellular technology and you're using that while combining it with a mass marketing voter awareness campaign, and And I think that entire mixture will actually make people aware, because of TV, radio ka impact is tremendous in the rural areas.
Especially radio.
Radio, yeah. And I think and plus the fact, I like the term Mera Vote Meri Taakat. It's a very positive message. It's like the get out the vote campaign.
It's a really empowering message.
And that message, I think that's even if you use that as election.
Yeah, but empowering hopefully towards the right end.
Well,
the people have to decide. We and I.
But I think it's really great. I just think that, and this is kind of my opinion generally about ICT technology for development and for education, is that it's a tool in order to do something. So it has to be complemented with in-person, like trials, with like what you were talking about with radio technology, because a lot of the thing is like these dynamics within a household is something that's so complicated, especially in Pakistan, right? Which is why like issues of family planning, issues of that, it's so difficult to actually counter. So that's why it's like to take that nuanced approach and to think really carefully, like if you're going to focus maybe the pilot of something like this in this particular elections on rural women, right? Just focus that just small demographic, and then you can actually think about, okay, from this angle, we can actually have like sit downs where you have the husbands as part of the stakeholders of the conversation, rather than leaving them out of the conversation. How can you like make this something that's in their interest? How can you pull them into it so that the whole issue of empowerment is something that they feel like they want to be part of? Because that way you're not creating more issues in the dynamic, right?
Thank you, Kulsum. We have someone's cell phone is going off on the studio. Thank you, Kulsum. Thank you for joining us in the Out of Bounds show.
Thank you, Shobs. Thank you for your contribution as well. And the whole purpose of this show today was to talk about 3 very good initiatives that have come up, and sort of try to link them together to see if something happens, and if something happens, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, and I think it was great to have it here. I mean, just the fact that we get to see you. I mean, this mammoth giant Kulsum Lakhani on Chup is like we've never seen it. Good. Thank you for coming in, and thank you. Out of Bounds.
Thank you.